Welcome to r/off my chest, where a student marries her teacher who's almost twice her age. Our next Reddit post is from TR Nart. My daughter married her former teacher, and she's completely transformed. She was 24 when they got married. He was 41. So that's a 17-year age gap. My daughter pursued a career in biochemical engineering, but dropped out after 2 years and decided to go for something easier. I raised her by myself and never had any issues with her. So when she told me she's dating this guy who's very respected in the field she originally studied, I wasn't very happy. But neither did I find it a tragedy. I knew my daughter. Mature, responsible. After a year, they got married and have been married for 5 years already. They have a 4-year-old daughter. She told me they started dating after she dropped out. I have my doubts, but now they're irrelevant. He wasn't really a teacher, but did have a contract with the university because he was working with students on projects that got huge financing. Now, what to tell about him? He's old school, emotionally cold, used to bark orders at those around him, always serious but doesn't drink. He doesn't spend his nights away. What I didn't like is that he always felt and acted superior to our family. Never participated at Christmas dinners or Easter dinners. I rarely saw my granddaughter unless I went to spend a few days at their place. He was polite with me, but just that. I rarely see him smile. I don't think he's a bad man, but he's used to working with people below him. My daughter loves him very much, which is a good thing, but her whole life is him. All day, every day, ironing his shirts and cooking. I saw her many times clinging to him, embracing him, and he just stays there. Doesn't even touch her. He doesn't reject her, but he's not responsive. Extremely cold. She's not even like this with their daughter. Just him. He got diagnosed with cancer last year. His body responds well to the treatment, but it's very aggressive. He buried himself even more in his projects. My daughter became skinny, doesn't sleep, cries all the time. She told me she doesn't want to live without him, that without him she's nothing. He's not dying, but anyway, I reminded her that she has a daughter that needs her. My granddaughter spends most of her time with me. My daughter is a wreck. She keeps repeating how she refuses to live without him. She doesn't go out with friends anymore, doesn't do anything for herself anymore. She's just, what will I do without him? I want to help her and my granddaughter. Kinda sounds like some daddy issues, I guess, especially since OP is a single woman, and there's definitely some dependency issues going on. So, to me, dependency issues plus an age gap in the relationship kind of automatically signals daddy issues, right? So maybe some good old-fashioned therapy would help this lady out. Our next Reddit post is from Phantom Phil. My parents have been married for over 40 years. I grew up in a stable Catholic home. My mom led the Parent Teachers Association, my dad coached my soccer team, and we took family trips to Disney every year. They were the couple everyone looked up to. I am 32 and living with my parents right now because of a chronic illness that's left me temporarily disabled. I'm in therapy to regain my independence, but in the meantime, I'm stuck watching them from the front row. My dad has what he calls a friendship with a woman from his music group. She's a widow and they got close after her husband passed away. But it's not friendship, it's an emotional affair. Constant texts, long phone calls, secret meetups, turning off his phone location. This all came to light in June, but my mom and I have pieced together enough to believe that it started months before. Maybe even while the woman's husband was still alive. That thought makes me sick. My dad used to be the kind of man who would never blur those lines. I don't know how to reconcile that with the version of him now. He even told my mom, either she stays in my life or there's no marriage. He swears nothing physical happened, but then says, God understands my heart, as if that makes it okay. As if faith has become his shield against accountability. My mom's devastated. She's been tracking his location, showing up wherever he goes, just trying to hang on. Last month, she started sleeping in the guest room upstairs. They've shared a bed for over 40 years. That's when it really sank in. Something sacred has cracked. My mom even confronted both of them. She showed up during a 4-hour coffee outing and sat down. The woman acted pious and calm, claiming they're just friends growing closer to God. My dad came home from church one day saying, almost smugly, God is still on my side. He told my mom that he stole the woman's heart. Then he looked at me and asked, what's your mom really losing by me having this friend? What I can't stop asking myself is, why is this random woman worth trading everything for? A marriage, a family, his reputation, his faith, 40 years of connection. Why is she worth burning it all down? He thinks he's entitled to privacy, that as long as nothing physical happens, no one has the right to judge him. I told him the truth always comes out. Part of me wonders if putting this whole thing on blast would be the only way to wake him up. They've started counseling, but even the therapist looks stunned. He referred them both out for individual sessions. Their new appointments are next week. I don't know what happens after that. 2 of my 3 brothers know, but no one talks. The silence feels like mourning. I'm trying to support my mom, but it's draining. Every day feels heavier. And every time I look at my dad, I see someone I don't recognize anymore. Sometimes I just sit with the questions that keep me up at night. Is the man I cherished as my dad still in there? Will he ever snap out of this? And if he doesn't, how do I ever trust him again? How do I trust any man again after watching the best one I knew burn everything down for nothing? And OP adds some context that her dad is 74 and her mom is 69. Down in the comments, we have this top post from Frosty Pierce. I knew a guy like that. In his 60s, he burned it all down. Now, his kids won't talk to him. He doesn't see his grandkids. Now, 5 years later, he says he has regrets. Yeah, I'll bet you do, pal. Our next Reddit post is from Cup Half Empty. So, back in the day, I was in love with this guy, Jay. And I let him treat me like dirt, and whatever, you've heard it before. It's embarrassing, but I learned from it and moved on. Anyway, he had a girl bestie who we'll call Amy. And she was actually one of the most passive-aggressive people I've ever met in my life. Super mean to me, and at the time, I was a bit chubbier, so she was able to make me feel super bad about myself. Jay always sided with Amy, and brushed off her bullying as joking, and that's how she is. It was a nightmare. We would fight about it all the time, and he would just call me insecure, which, to be fair, I was at the time. Anyways, we broke up years ago, but he did a number on me for sure. I haven't heard about this man in years, because to me, once we're done, you're dead to me, and I will never look up what you've got going on. But recently, I met up with an old friend who was also a friend of Jay and Amy. She used to date one of Jay's best friends. They split up pretty recently, also due to Amy, lol. And we had gotten close and kept in contact, but I'd always asked her not to give me any details. But recently, I got engaged, yay! And Jay reached out to me on a new Instagram of his asking if we could talk. I didn't respond, nor am I going to because there's nothing to talk about. It's been like 4 years, lol. But I mentioned it to my friend and she was like, "Oh my god, I have so much tea I've been waiting to spill. I just didn't want to cross any boundaries." And I was like, okay, I'm over it, but also nosy, so what's up? So basically, Jay and Amy never dated, but they also had a super weird relationship, and it was clear that he was into her, but she wasn't into him. But she liked his attention. Well, any male attention. Amy's a pretty girl. I hate her, but she's not ugly. But she's like the hottest girl in a small town type of hot, if you get what I mean. And we all lived in a small town at the time, so she was Miss Thing over there. Anyway, apparently, a woman that we'll call Scarlett, because she low-key looks a bit like Scarlett Johansson, moved to that town temporarily for reasons I don't know. It's kind of a random small town, and she was originally from a huge city, but whatever. Anyway, Scarlett met Jay at a bar, and they hit it off and ended up becoming friendly. I don't know if it was romantic on her part, but he was trying to woo her for sure, and apparently it seemed like he may have had a chance. My friend sent me pictures of this girl, and she's actually so pretty, it's insane to me. Like, how? She was apparently a former model, and honestly, I have no doubts about that. She's like TV beautiful, like beautiful in every city, town, country you go to visit. A universal 10. And Miss Thing Amy suddenly was outshined to the highest degree. So Amy was mad and did her whole power trip thing, and Scarlett instantly was like, "Nah, I'm okay." Jay went nuclear on Amy because, to be honest, this girl was so far out of his league, it's insane. And he knew that he would probably never be in the same room with a woman like that ever again. Anyway, Scarlett legit ghosted him straight up after the first meeting with Amy, and apparently never spoke to him again. What a queen. Wish I'd done that. And Jay lost his mind and spilled all of Amy's dirty laundry and verbally tore her apart, and she responded with just as much venom. So their relationship is done. The friend group is shattered, and the butthole in me is just so happy that Amy finally got out-hotted and learned she ain't all that. Jay losing a baddie is funny too. Anyway, this is a good lesson for girls who let men prioritize other women. If they're into you enough, they'd fight for you. So if that bum's telling you that his friend is just joking when she's being a bully, leave. He'd go to war for his Scarlets, and if you don't look like her, you're just wasting your time. I found my prince who liked me as I am. I'm far from the cutest girl in the room, and it doesn't matter. I'm more than that. Hold your head high, and only give your energy to those who deserve it. Our next Reddit post is from Mini Perspective. So, I'm a 41-year-old guy, and I have a strange family situation. I, a bisexual man, married a woman, now 39, when I was 23. 4 years later, we had our first child, Miles, who's now a 14-year-old boy. 2 years later, we had our second, now a 12-year-old girl. 8 years into our marriage, my wife came out as my husband, Mike. Like I said, I'm bisexual, so that caused no sexuality problems, and I was incredibly supportive. He's been on hormones for a while now, and passes 100% as a cis man. I'm very proud of him, and it's actually been amazing watching him become this confident, vibrant, beautiful man that I've never known was inside him. It was weird explaining it to my son, but my daughter doesn't really remember a time where Appa was Mama. They both took to it quickly, like the little brilliant sponges they are, and it quickly became the new normal. 4 years ago, we had to move states because I lost my job. The new town we live in isn't the most accepting, so my husband has told very few people that he's trans. For a while, we told everyone that our kids were adopted. The kids don't really mind since they're old enough to get the gravity of the situation, and it's a nothing lie. The thing is, now that they've reached puberty, that's getting hard. Miles looks effing exactly like me. My mom hung up a picture of me in her hallway thinking it was Miles. Ellie looks exactly like my husband pre-transition. It's like in cartoons, where the boy looks like the dad and the girl looks like the mom. Though this does mean they look nothing alike. And yeah, before some dickhead says so, I'm sure they're both mine. Anyway, my husband and I so far are just thinking to let it stay an apparent weird coincidence. I think we're the only people in the world with this issue. OP, I'll give you a grand secret here. No one really cares if it's your kid or an adopted kid or whatever. People tend to think that the world really cares about their own situation, but by and large, the world just doesn't think about you at all. No offense. So stop stressing about it, OP, and just live your life. Our next Reddit post is from Snake Charmer Sensei. I'm really struggling with the situation at work. A coworker, D, has a 19-year-old son, Nathan, who caused a fatal head-on collision with a family friend of mine, Aaron, who's 28. Nathan was in the wrong lane, going over a hill at high speed, and hit Aaron head-on. Aaron is now brain dead and being kept on life support only until organ recipients are lined up. D left work the morning of the accident, but came back the next day acting like nothing happened. No mention of her son, the crash, the hospitalization, nothing. Aaron's mom had been trying to find out who the other driver was, but the police wouldn't tell her. The state police report was finally posted yesterday on some obscure website. That's how Aaron's friends, including me, found out that it was Nathan. I'm grieving Aaron, angry about how avoidable this was, and trying to process that he's an organ donor. At the same time, I have to work beside D, who's acting like everything is normal. She doesn't know I was close to A, and I'm pretty sure she's lawyered up for her son. I'm planning to avoid her as much as possible because I don't want my feelings to affect my job. But honestly, it's really difficult. There's no real solution other than keeping my mouth shut. But it feels awful to see someone behave like nothing happened when everything is definitely not normal. Down in the comments, we have this story from Little My BB. A friend of mine's daughter drunk drove and ended up killing her best friend. My friend was horrified and sick over everything, but she still had to go to work. It also was deeply embarrassing for her. Her daughter was a teen when this happened, and she'd been rebelling like crazy. Like cops coming over to the house constantly. She tried her best to get her help with being a single mom. She was having social workers give her resources, and the worst case scenario ended up happening. So it was easier for her to go to work and just pretend like that wasn't happening, so she didn't have to carry it into every single aspect of her life. She had to grieve her daughter going to prison, while also understanding there was nothing she could do and her child needed consequences. Yeah, this is a complicated situation. Part of me wants to be angry at Dee, but the other part of me also feels sympathy for Dee because she's also kind of a victim in a way too. Obviously, the real culprit here is Nathan for driving incorrectly, but Nathan's decision affected many people besides Aaron. That was r slash off my chest, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit episodes every single day.